Man, we just cannot seem to get a break in this crypto market. It's absolutely crazy. We have a couple of days that seem pretty good, actually even more like a week that seems pretty good. But then we start to see, a rug or whatever we're calling ohm right now. We'll talk a little bit about that here in a second. Obviously, that is kind of the big happening story that's unfolding kind of real time. It's happened over the past several of hours. We don't really know exactly what's going to be happening or going to be going on there. We will be talking a little bit about that just kind of in detail. But before we get into that, I want to just talk about the market a little bit more generally because that's obviously what's going on, kind of more relevant to everything. And we are starting to see, in my mind, some pretty bullish indicators and some flips that, again, are very, very important to see. So we'll go on ahead, we'll check all that type of stuff out. As we can see here on the crypto bubbles, we can see, of course, on the day, a little bit red here, still some greens here and there. Of course, the most notable one here is ohm. This one, we're not sure if it's a rug. The team is claiming some reckless liquidations. Again, we'll talk about this in a little bit more detail, but about $5 to $6 billion wiped out on the market here today. Pretty crazy. I think that's kind of what's dragging down a lot of these alts here is, again, just kind of some of that residual fear and whatnot. And potentially, if this was liquidations, maybe we're getting, if people were using cross margins, stuff like that, maybe these are just kind of some cascading liquidations going through and affecting the market. But overall, as we can see on the week, things looking pretty good here. Obviously, ohm, a little bit of that goose egg here, but we've got Jasmy up almost 75%, Render almost 40%, Hyperliquid up almost 50%, Helium over 50%. Pi seeing a little bit of a nice recovery, which is awesome to see over the past several weeks that it's had. Solana up almost 30%, Onyx coin up over 100%, having another really nice run, and then Fartcoin again up almost 90%. This has kind of been the meme coin of the probably past 3, 4, 5 months. It's done quite well, obviously been beaten down, but in a market where altcoins are really not doing quite well, other than the big boys, right? I mean, kind of see Doge, Bonk, Floki, Pepe. Like Fartcoin is probably kind of like the next one in that tier, which is pretty interesting to see. I'm not sure if that's what a lot of people would have expected, but that's what we got here. So pretty interesting. We can still see though, a little red on the month. Most of the selling has stopped, so we are starting to see some green coming in here and there, but again, still a ton of red everywhere. So that's just something that we're kind of want to be monitoring and taking a look at kind of as the market develops. As we can see with Bitcoin specifically, what we're seeing here in my mind is very, very crucial. This is what, to me, indicates that we might have seen a little bit of a flip in the market and we might start to get back into a little bit more bullish territory. Again, no guarantees in life for anything, but what we are seeing here is we've had this kind of descending trend line that we've been trying to break over for the past several months, basically ever since the 20th of January. We've been going down only, trying to break through and getting rejected by this trend line several times. You can see here kind of at this most recent juncture where we started to develop a little bit of bullish momentum. We actually got rejected 5 times in a row and then came right back down, broke below this, and then actually found the lows that we have seen kind of this like mini cycle, I guess we could say. So, could these be the absolute lows? Hard to say for sure. Obviously, since then we've seen a pretty strong bounce. Again, we got rejected up at this trend line, going back down, and then we came here, we broke through. I did actually make a video when this was happening. We were talking about, maybe we could see a rejection and another wick down, in which that would have been pretty bad news. But of course, we actually did go up, break and close above. We did saw a pretty close retest, and now we're bouncing back up again. So again, I would say this is overall very, very good news to see. How high this goes or kind of where we top out, hard to say for sure. Obviously, we do have this kind of very strong support level. It was a very strong support level. Now it's going to be a very strong resistance level at about this kind of 91,300 range. And we've also seen, a fair bit of difficulty getting back above this like 88,500 range as well. So those are probably going to be the next two kind of key levels. Going on from there, I think what we can see here is there's kind of there's 2 different kind of major zones here. I would call this whole area kind of a bit of a neutral zone, because again, if we break through here, we can, I think, comfortably say that the bull market is over, and because we are now breaking below kind of some of the previous highs, we've broken the market structure of higher highs, higher lows. that is essentially what would be happening if we were to break through this level here. We have not. We've actually held that up, which is good. So this, again, remains to be kind of a bit of a neutral zone. I would call this more of like a bearish neutral, and this is more of like a bullish neutral. Obviously, with the bearish neutral zone, we're kind of fighting to stay above this key level of support. And if in the bullish neutral zone, we're essentially continuing to take runs up at new all-time highs. And again, that's in a better place to be than trying to fight to stay above key like macro support levels. So that's kind of how I'm comparing these. Right now, we are kind of in this bearish neutral zone. We could maybe jump up and get back into this level that we have seen over the past, kind of couple months prior to falling back into this zone, which did happen about the 25th of February. So, 25th of February to about the let's say the 19th of November, this whole time frame was kind of in this bearish neutral zone. And now we're kind of sitting in this, or in the bullish neutral zone, excuse me. And now we're sitting in like the bearish neutral zone from basically the 25th of February until now. We'll see again, this could be here for the next couple weeks, couple months. Who's to say for sure? But overall, that's kind of what we're seeing. I would say this is a very, very good thing for Bitcoin. We'll see how it holds. Obviously, over the next couple of weeks, I think things will. I think personally, things will only continue to get better over the next couple of weeks, just because with tariffs being kind of pushed that 90-day delay. Hopefully, we should be starting to see a little bit of like some small wins coming in. A lot of, I would say, the peak uncertainty is behind us. Investors hate uncertainty, of course. And so I think, some of the maximum pain and maximum fear is probably behind us, though. Again, we never know for certain. However, that's kind of how it appears to me. I think we're in a pretty good spot. Again, with RSI, we can see we're about neutral here, and then we're also just above neutral here on the Bollinger Bands. So again, things looking good there. Overall, if you are looking to trade, Bitcoin, Solana, anything like that, for that matter, I do have the links in the description below. BTCC does have that 10% guaranteed bonus on first-time deposits, so that's a really, really good deal if you are interested. Also, they do have those. They also have the $10,000 in trading bonuses, and then WEEX also has $30,000 in trading bonuses, and then Phemex is $4,800, and they're also doing a Easter trading competition as well, where your first $50 in losses are 100% covered if you are interested. So a whole bunch of different options there. If you are interested, just check those links in the description below. Now, moving on, I want to talk a little bit about just the overall market overview, because we can see here, even though we are starting to see some, I would say, fundamentally bullish technical indicators hitting on the Bitcoin chart, we are still in a very fear-based market. I think this is good because obviously, sometimes over the past couple of months, every time we'd see a little bit of green or a little bit of bullish energy coming in, this would immediately spike up. And now that we're starting to see a little bit of bullish momentum, it's not really spiking too much. I think right now, because there's just a general level of like exhaustion and, people being like, oh, well, it's just going to bump, it's just going to bounce to come back down again. That's generally what we want, right? We want people to have experienced max pain. We want people to be kind of exhausted from all the selling. That is, in my opinion, is when we're going to start to see that turn around a little bit. So I think that the fact that the fear and greed index is holding so low is a generally good thing. We also can see open interest from Bitcoin. It has actually hit that low back here in about the middle of March, about the 20th of March, seeming to be kind of the bottom, starting to stack up a little bit as we kind of are moving along. And so I do think that this, to me, indicates that we might see, again, kind of some of that peak uncertainty from institutions and larger investors maybe getting a little bit past us, and people are ready to kind of open up some and be a little bit more risk on here. What we can see with the RSI heat map, though, is we have seen a little bit of some recent sell-offs. Again, coming from most of the altcoins, whether this is just for, some retracing a little bit from the recent moves up, or if this is due to some of the Ohm news or a combination of both. I think that's kind of what we're seeing here. However, the market average still in neutral, again, on the low end of neutral, but it is still in neutral. We can see, more being in weak and oversold rather than strong and overbought. So the market, but overall, kind of overwhelmingly in the neutral territory. Now, looking at the liquidation maps, we can actually see on the 1 and 7 day, both indicating a move to the downside. This does kind of make sense just due to the recent moves up that we have seen. However, nothing too crazy. I mean, on the 7 day, I would say quite the spread here, but on the 1 day, nothing really too useful to be trading off of, at least for right now. So that's kind of what we're seeing. One thing I did want to go back to and take a little bit of a quick look at here is some news regarding Ohm. So I guess before we get into that, we'll talk a little bit about kind of the situation, what we've got going on here. What we're seeing overall is, in my mind, Bitcoin remains king. This has been the cycle of proving that Bitcoin is number one. Obviously, while we've seen, massive swings, high, low, more honestly down than up than I think from what a lot of people were expecting, Bitcoin is held relatively strong. And so what we've been seeing there, I think, is just kind of the reinforcement of the fact that Bitcoin really should be the one that people are taking seriously over all else. However, this kind of ohm situation is something I would say stays very, very prevalent or it should stay very, very prevalent in all of our minds, because ohm was a $6 billion token. This is larger than Ondo or, many of these other RWA. It is an RWA token, and it was bigger than a lot of these other ones that we like to talk about. What we can see though is over 6 billion extracted from crypto in just 30 minutes. And here this person saying, this might be a disaster on the level of Luna. I think that is completely insane. Luna, it was like $100 billion plus that was lost from the crypto industry, and obviously led to a cascade effect of a lot of other things happening in crypto. So to me, that seems to be a little bit of like a hyperbolic claim here. Obviously not good to ever see a project, especially a multi-billion-dollar project, collapse. But that doesn't mean, that it's going to, bring the next Luna and this cascade of things. I don't really think that we've seen where we have the level of leverage in the market that could do something like this. Apparently, again, we don't know for sure. Essentially what was happening with the ohm situation is the price dropped about 80-90% in about 30 minutes, and also the team's official Telegram was deleted, and so a lot of people were expecting that there was a rug here. However, the team has posted on their X account that basically to the Mantra community, we want to assure you that Mantra is fundamentally strong. Today's activity was triggered by reckless liquidations, not anything to do with this project. One thing we want to be clear on, this was not our team. We are looking into it and we'll share more details about what happened as soon as we can. So again, really, really hard to say exactly what is going on here. Is it a rug and they're trying to, play dumb about it? Was somebody else or was an insider that maybe wasn't affiliate or maybe was affiliated with the team but not condoned or sanctioned by the team? Did they pull this off? Obviously, their official Telegram was deleted, so somebody had to do that. So we're trying to still figure it out. Obviously, there's a lot of these on-chain super sleuths and whatnot that are getting involved here. But the big thing is this, I think, serves as a very poignant and prominent reminder that you just cannot trust what goes on in crypto. Right now, I would say I would view this as investing more like the .com bubble, right? I am fully aware of the fact that probably of every 100 companies, 1 to 2 of them will probably actually live to tell the tale. The other 98 to 99 are probably going to go the way of the dinosaur. And so you just have to be prepared for that. So for example, if you're really interested in RWA, for example, maybe you don't go all in on something like an ohm, because even if you are just absolutely certain that it is the future and it is the one that will win, things like this can happen. Again, even if it was no fault of the team and it was reckless liquidations, realistically, the Mantra project will probably not recover from this, just because a lot of their most hardcore and committed fans have just gotten burned for a ton of money, especially some of the people who are in a lot, some of the potential whales, things like that. They have lost an unconscionable amount of money, right? And so the thing that's important to note here is that this coin, again, whether the fault of their own or not, is likely not going to recover. Now, again, you can clip this and, if this happens to 2-3 years from now that, owns $1 trillion project, then of course, I'll be willing to say that I'm wrong. But I think there's an overwhelmingly likely possibility that is not going to be the case, right? And so that's what I think is so important to remember, and why I personally am never going in too heavy on anything, because things can just happen. I mean, maybe it's a smart contract hack, maybe it's a rug, maybe it's just getting unlucky, maybe it's being at the wrong place at the wrong time, maybe it's not timing the market correctly, right? I mean, there's a whole bunch of different things. Maybe it's not being sufficiently backed. I mean, there's a whole bunch of different things that could happen that could have essentially a negative outcome on an otherwise perfectly great project. I learned this the hard way with a couple of different projects in 2021, and so that is something to me that I just kind of keep as an immutable rule, and I think it's something that all of you should consider as well. Again, none of this is financial advice. You do need to make your own decisions. It's your own money, all of that type of stuff. If you just have a good feeling and you want to try it, good for you, I guess, but I would just say that in my mind, that has never been something that I've seen be successful the majority of the time, right? So again, this just kind of serves as a reminder that this can happen to kind of literally anything, and you never know when. So just be careful, make sure you're being responsible, make sure you're being prudent. You know, it is your money, make sure you protect it, make sure you do your own diligence, all of that type of stuff. So anyway, hopefully you guys found the information in this video useful. If you did, a like and a subscribe really does help me out. Also, if you have any thoughts, comments, questions, anything like that, just drop those in the comment section below. And also, if you are looking to have a little bit more like, you know, interaction with me on a more like kind of personal basis, I do have that Discord. If you are interested in joining my Discord, the link to the Patreon is in the description below. I do have it through kind of behind a paywall, just so to keep all the bots and all those types of things out. It's really quite a pain. I've been in several free servers before, and I'm always getting invites from people that are not actually that person. So I'm trying to kind of keep that to a minimum as much as I can, and that's one of the ways I do think I can do it. So I made a very nominal amount, but it's more just to kind of protect all the people in the server. Again, hopefully it has kind of that intended effect. So anyway, hopefully you found all the information in the video. Like, subscribe, do all that type of fun stuff, and we'll see you in the next one.